Here we go. Back for Season 2. Welcome to BG Game Preview. I'm your host, Lucy Eisenbarth. And Week 1 of high school football is here. High school football is back, and I could not be more excited. I know that you could probably say the same. We're going to be looking at Garrigan's Week 1 matchup versus Kingsley Pierson. But first, let's take a look to last year to see how the Golden Bears finished off their season. So last year, the Bears finished with an undefeated record in the regular season and proceeded to go 3-0 to make the Dome, then to beat Audubon 60-36 in the semifinals, and finally, after being down 36, beat Woodbine in the 8-man state championship, 44-42. There's really no notes on Garrigan's season last year. They were just an insanely good, insanely crazy team. It's a perfect season, really. And we'll take a look at some of the stats for fun. Tate first, the leader in passing, going 74 for 111 for 1,333 yards and 25 touchdowns, and only throwing one interception on the entire year. Leader in rushing was none other than Ethan Marceau, who had 200 carries for 1,426 yards, averaging 7.1 yards per carry with 29 touchdowns. That's a crazy stat line. He was just super, super insane. Leader in receiving was none other than junior Michael Joyce, who had 29 receptions for 494 yards, 17 yards per catch, and 8 touchdowns. Leader in sacks on the defense was Ethan Marceau with 4, and leader in tackles for loss was senior Carter Schwab with 10.5. Garrigan had an amazing season last year. Really no other notes on this, but we look to next year where things are going to look a little different for the Golden Bears. Let's get right into it. So before I get into Garrigan's opponent at all, I want to talk about Garrigan's roster a little bit. So last year, Garrigan graduated a ton of seniors, which will impact this team. I'd like to highlight a few of them. One being quarterback Tate Birch, 2 being running back Ethan Marceau, losing some guys on the O-line and D-line such as Caden Graves and Carter Schwab. Also losing guys like Carter McGregor on the defensive and offensive aspects. Losing some senior leadership with guys like Kyle Borman and Lucas Bohonic. And really just kind of leaving some holes in this team for Garrigan. So who's going to fill this starting job at quarterback? Well, I did get word Michael Joyce is going to be the starting quarterback for the Golden Bears this year. He technically was a reserve quarterback behind Tate Birch and Jared Graves. A lot of the times Jared would go in instead of Michael because Michael would still be out and playing receiver, so they would not take him from that role. But he would still get reps at quarterback, and that is his starting role this year. Starting quarterback and starting safety will be Michael Joyce. Now, kind of filling in the rest of the offense, I do think that the starting running backs will be CJ McGregor. Pairing alongside him, I do think will be Titan Troyer. Looking at receivers and just receiving core in general, tight ends included there, I do think it will be led by Weston Rosemeyer and Carson Seidels, while also mixing in some younger guys in there, such as Jack Muller, and Madden Miller will still be a super, super reliable tight end for Garrigan. He did get a lot of reps, a lot of playing time last year. He will be a very good player for this Golden Bear team. Filling in offensive and defensive line, I do think Carson Kramer will come up huge for Garrigan this year. We saw him get reps in the playoffs last year, but I do think that he will be amazing again for Garrigan this year. As well as senior leader Matt Besh, I do think that he will also be huge. He has proven that he can come up and make big plays, and I think he will do just that. Enough about Garrigan's offense. Let's go look at their opponent for Week 1. Garrigan is going to start this season in kind of a little bit of a hard position. Week 1 on the road versus Kingsley Pierson. Kingsley Pierson was a very, very solid team last year. Garrigan played them twice, I believe. I may be wrong on that. but I know we did play them at least once in week 1, and we did win pretty dominantly. This team is not a bad team, though, at all. Let's look over at Kingsley's team from last year to kind of determine what we can see out of them this year. Kingsley Pierson's season ended last year in a 12-57 loss to none other than your Golden Bears. This game was at Bishop Garrigan, but we're going to go look at some of the stats and their roster to see who we can see on this starting offense. Their quarterback from last year, Landon Howe, did graduate, so we will be seeing someone new at quarterback this year. Most likely going to be coming up as a sophomore, Eli Schroeder, who just completed one pass last year for 10 yards. The other person they had play at quarterback was Easton Nissen, who was also a senior last year. He was one of their leading receivers and defensive players. Landon Howe, as a quarterback, scrambled a lot last year. He was their leading rusher with 62 carries for 580 yards and 8 touchdowns. Second in line was another senior, Tyler Kosh, who rushed for 75 carries for 388 yards and 13 touchdowns. The next rusher that wasn't a senior last year is sophomore Darius Rasmussen, who had 16 carries for 151 yards and 2 touchdowns. I can assume that he will be the starter week 1, and we could see things out of him. It's very hard to judge a team when a lot of their players were seniors last year. That's why I feel like this week 1 prediction will be very, very difficult, and this game could go really any way. Leading receiver was Tyler Kosh, and following him was Easton Nissen. The next receiver, who wasn't a senior last year, was sophomore Sam Dosh, who had 8 catches for 144 yards and 1 touchdown. Again, you can assume that he may be the starter week 1. Now let's get into this game. This is going to be a very, very interesting game. I think it's going to be very electric as well. I do think that the teams will struggle at first. New systems, new players, you've got some missing pieces maybe from last season. But I do think that in the end, this will be a very, very good game. Kingsley Pierson did play a week 0 game versus Coon Rapids Bayard, which they won in a slim victory, 56-52. Kingsley going into this game technically 1-0 with a game already under their belt. Garrigan going in at a clean 0-0 with no games played. I do think this game will be very, very good, and my final prediction for this game is Bishop Garrigan 58, Kingsley Pierson 38. I do think the margin of victory will be lesser in this game than some of the other games we may see from Garrigan, but I do think that both teams will struggle kind of coming out of the gate. I do think this really is going to be a game where both teams are trying to figure out what they want, how their offense is going to run. Garrigan still, even though losing all those seniors, is a really, really good team. Heading into this game, ranked number 4 in the state. Kingsley, I am not sure of their ranking. If I do find it, I'll put it on screen. But I do think that this game is going to be very good. But in the end, ultimately, it will be your Garrigan Bears coming out on top. Now, I did this last year, and I'm doing it again this year. But at the end of the first episode, I just want people to kind of get to know me. So, for those of you who don't know, my name is Lucy Eisenbarth, and I am a sophomore at Bishop Garrigan High School. I started this whole channel last year in August as kind of a little side project. I love sports and stats and predictions and all of these things, and I thought about doing my own kind of sports show for my high school. My life outside of BG Game Previews also filled with tons of other things. I am a football cheerleader, a golfer, and involved in numerous activities. I don't know if I could list them all on this side of the screen, so I'll put them over here as well. I do tons and tons of things. I love staying involved, and I love everything that I get to do at Garrigan. BG Game Preview is one of my favorite things, and this is something that I cherish a lot and am very proud of. Great things are coming with this channel. Expect more every single week, as well as some bonus content. I want to do a new show called Around the State, where I cover scores from either around the class or around all classes in the state. The biggest storylines and everything above. This will still always be the Bishop Garrigan pregame show, where I'm giving you every stat line every week, just with some extra stuff. I'm super excited for this next season of BG Game Preview and what it'll all bring, so make sure you never miss another video, like, subscribe, go comment down below anything you want to see from the channel. And this is Lucy Eisenbarth signing off on the first episode of a new chapter in BG Game Preview.